Today's video is going to look at the behavioural approach to leadership, or behavioural theories of leadership. In particular, going to touch on McGregor's Theory X and Theory Y, but really we're going to focus on Blake and Mouton's managerial grid. So where does the idea of behavioural leadership come from? We think back to trait theory, the idea that leaders are born. They have innate traits that make them good leaders, and it's not something that can be learned. You're either born a leader or you're not. Behavioural theory perhaps looks at some of the same traits, but recognises or believes that we can train leaders. We can train and develop appropriate behaviours so that someone who isn't born with really strong leadership traits, that they can nonetheless still learn them. So we also think about that and think about how the different leaders behave and how those behaviours impact on the staff, the teams that they're managing or leading. So as it says, this was pioneered in the 60s and 70s. But it's still relevant today, and some of the theories are still cited today, and a lot of the management and leadership development courses that we have in existence are all based on these theories. So that's why we're going to look at these in a little bit of detail now. So thinking about McGregor's Theory X and Theory Y. Theory X is a concern for production, but generally speaking, a manager who adopts a Theory X management style will believe that workers are lazy, that they're motivated by money, and the best way to get them to be productive is to pay them, reward them, motivate them. So bonuses, for example. But a Theory X manager believes that you can't trust employees to work on their own. If you think about the expression, while the cat is away, the mice will play. This idea that the manager has to be standing over the employees, monitoring them, supervising them, making sure that they are being productive, that they are working, and you use rewards to encourage increased production. Monetary rewards, as I discussed, but there will also be sanctions. So if they're not productive, if they're not performing, there will be sanctions applied as well. Theory Y is the opposite. So Theory Y is recognising that we have to trust our employees, that if we trust them, if we treat them as adults, if we empower them, if we give them autonomy so they have control over how they do their job, they're going to be more productive. So rather than monitoring them and standing over them constantly, a manager, a leader will be able to take a step back, and the employees will work away, they'll get on with the job, they know what's required, they'll work out the best way for them to do that job. And if you give them that distance, give them that space, then they will perform better. They'll be more motivated, they'll be more productive, they'll be more engaged. So you've got a happier workforce. So two very different theories about how we behave and how to get the best out of employees. So Blake and Mouton take this idea of managers either having a strong focus on getting the job done or a strong focus on people. Where McGregor had the two split, Blake and Mouton were actually more concerned with trying to make sure that both are happening. So they developed this grid, and typically you would fill in a questionnaire and you would plot your responses on a grid, which would then place you in one of these different categories. So depending on where you place, will determine not just your current style of leadership, but this theory was originally used as a development tool. So the ideal that everybody should be working towards is a team leader. So a team leader is someone who is highly focused on getting the job done, but they will also be highly focused on making sure they're getting the best out of the team. So they'll be motivating, encouraging, engaging with their workforce, engaging with their team, so that the team are highly performing. And because they are highly performing, because they are engaged, they will be more productive. So you're probably looking at a high performing team, perhaps in a high performing organisation. So that's the ideal. That's what we want all leaders to be, all managers to aspire to getting there. So what you would do is you would identify which of the other quadrants, or in the middle, your employees may fall, your leaders, your managers, and then you develop a training program that would take them up to the team leader role. So we can see that there are 5 different leadership styles according to this managerial grid. So if we start at the bottom left, our impoverished leader is someone who basically isn't doing very well. They're not getting the job done. Task isn't getting completed on time. It's not done to a high standard, so the quality may be suffering, but the staff are not particularly happy either. So you've got a manager who's not engaging with the team, who could perhaps be absent, so just not there at all. So there's no communication, they don't know what they're doing, the manager's not engaging with them, not talking to them, not managing them. So you have a team that's demotivated, disengaged, unproductive, possibly high absence, possibly high turnover of staff. So it's not a good leader at all, an impoverished leader. An authority obedience leader, sometimes also referred to as an autocratic leader, is one where there is a high focus on getting the job done. So an authority or obedience leader is used to giving out instructions and just having their orders carried out. So he'll tell the staff what to do and they will just carry out the task. They'll just do what they're told because the boss is in charge and has told them what to do. So the task will be completed. It will be completed on time. It will be completed to a satisfactory standard. But there's a low focus on the team. They're not very good at managing people. So they'll do the job because they're being told to do it, not because they want to, not because they're motivated to. It could be that the sanctions of not doing the job maybe what's motivating them to actually do it. They're not doing it because they want to support the manager or they believe in the manager. So you're going to have a team that potentially could be quite stressed, could have absence levels, could have turnover within the team as well. So again, the task may be getting done, but perhaps not to the same high standard as it would be for the team leader, because the team themselves are not engaged. They're not buying into what the manager or the leader is trying to do. Country club leader is the opposite. So there's a really, really high focus on the team. So really engaged team, highly motivated. They support their manager. They buy into what their leader is trying to do. So they're committed, they're motivated, they're engaged, but the leader is not driving the task. So the task is almost being overlooked. So tasks may not be completed on time, quality may suffer. So again, we have a highly motivated team, but the team's not performing. So we need to look at how do we develop a country club leader to make them a better leader, so they're more focused on the task, to turn them into a team leader. So that's the idea, that you would identify where the leader's fitting within the grid, and then identifying what's required to bring them up to the team leader. So different leaders might require different support mechanisms, might require different guidance to help develop the appropriate behaviours to get them to a team leader status. The middle of the road leader, as the name suggests, is someone that's doing an okay job. The tasks are getting completed, not particularly high standard. They're meeting the deadlines, but they're perhaps not getting things done early. They're doing things to an okay standard, but again, quality could be improved, standards could be better. And likewise with the staff will feel satisfied. They're not going to be highly motivated, they're not going to be highly committed. They may be quite happy to come to work, but perhaps not to go that extra mile. So again, you here have a manager who's demonstrating some of the behaviours for both task and people, but both of them could be developed a little bit more to turn that person into a better leader, a better manager. So hopefully that has proved interesting and useful for you, and thank you very much for listening.